it's Proud Cat Lover, and today in this episode of the Crested Gecko Care, we're going to be talking about handling crested geckos. So, I'm going to be feeding this baby. And right now, one of the easiest techniques you can get your baby or your adult crested gecko tamed with is hand walking, like what I'm doing right now. That's just kind of letting the crested gecko walk or jump, whichever they choose to do, between your hands. It's just a real safe way to just, whoop! He keeps jumping. This one here is really a jumper. This one here, I think, is Whisper. Yeah, Whisper's supposed to be the one that's all chill. No, not the case. But anyway, hand walking is one of the ways that you can handle crested geckos safely. And of course, like I said, it's a good way of helping tame them, because otherwise, like, they're going to be crazy sometimes. That's just a crested gecko. But it's definitely a good way, like I said, to help tame them and calm them down, for them to finally just sit still like this. So another way to handle a crested gecko is, this mainly works for babies. I wouldn't do this with adults just because it's easier. But like when you first go to pick them up, if you can't scoop them up from the belly just like this, I'll do that facing you guys if I can. Hey, stop if you just come up from the sides here. But with babies, sometimes you can put your hand under their tail and just lift gently, and they'll do this. Boop. And then you can just plop them down onto your hand. So, of course, this just works with young babies around, 5 months or less, because once they get older, they're most likely going to be tamed by then, and you guys won't have to worry about that. But sometimes if they're in a weird situation where they're in a spot that they're trying to run off to, and you just want to grab, oh, this one just flopped over onto its tail by itself. But they hang from their tail. Their tail's prehensile, so they can just easily hang from it. And of course they use it in the wild to grab onto branches or leaves if they're falling, or if they're using it to stabilize themselves. So obviously when you're handling your crested gecko, no matter the age, you want to be gentle, don't want to be rough. Whoop. Once they get a little older, you can kind of anticipate when they're going to jump, because they will kind of gather their hind legs together, and they'll think about it before they jump most of the time. With the babies, they just jump whenever they want. There's not much warning. Like, they kind of do the hind legs that they kind of gather up, and then they just jump. But like I said, you want to be gentle no matter what the age is. You don't want to actually grab the tail or pinch it, because it will fall off. You don't want to squeeze or anything, because you could potentially, especially if you squeeze the rib area, you could potentially break something in there, especially when they're young. Their lungs, their heart. You don't want to accidentally bust something in there. You don't want to break their ribs. Especially when they're babies, you don't want to be grabbing their feet. Even as adults, you don't want to grab their feet. You just don't want to squeeze them, because they will become aggressive because they're protecting themselves. And as adults, if they bite you, as in protection-wise, they can draw blood. Obviously, they have teeth. But they're not most likely going to bite you any other time unless they're scared, or if they're going through their puberty years like my babies are. Because Pecan, I was feeding him last night, and I was holding my hand out for him to jump onto it, and he just all of a sudden bit it and shook his head, and I'm like, okay, what did I do? I literally was doing nothing. So, but yeah, that's kind of the basic ways. Once your crested gecko gets tamed down as an adult, you can still do the hand walking thing. That's normally the best way to handle them. I mean, I personally don't let them hang out on my shoulder unless they're one that I trust, because Blaze, I wouldn't let her hang out on my shoulder because she poops on me all the time. But Ember, on the other hand, she'll just sit there for 30 minutes, just chilling. Magma would too. I wouldn't do it with Phoenix because she jumps everywhere and I don't trust her. So, and I definitely don't let any of the babies, because they always like trying to climb into my hair. But you can see now that this one here, Whisper, has really calmed down. See how he's just sitting there? Now you can pet them, but as babies they aren't too crazy about it, but just real gentle. Almost just not touching them at all. Just little pets. And when they get bigger, if they have a big crest, I always like to play with the floppy crests. I'll just kind of grab my fingers and do this like that. Real gentle, because they're so soft. But anyway, guys, this is not going to be a long video, because it's not that difficult to handle a crested gecko. Like I said, just make sure not to squeeze them, grab them. You definitely don't want to be loud, real loud around them, because they will get scared. Now, some geckos do better around loud noises than others. Of course, none of mine, all the years I've had them adult-wise, have ever dropped their tails from fireworks or anything going on off outside. Our neighbors work on their vehicles a lot, revving the engine and whatnot. They haven't dropped their tails. So sometimes if they grow up around it, they're a little bit more used to it versus if they have been in a quiet room and then all of a sudden they're exposed to it. Like in my house, if someone were to buy one of my baby Crested Geckos and they have a house of kids that are constantly yelling or screaming, they could potentially be really stressed or drop their tails just because they're going from a somewhat quiet environment to a really loud environment. So of course if someone were to purchase a gecko as a baby and have it grow up in that environment, then it might do a little bit better versus, I almost forgot I need to feed this one, versus if they bought an adult that was raised in that kind of, quiet, household, and then all of a sudden, you sell it to somebody who has like a bunch of kids or something. So yeah. Anyway guys, I hope you guys found this informative. Of course, like I said, just make sure to be gentle when you're handling your geckos, not to squeeze them or anything. I definitely want to stress the don't squeeze them part, because I see so many people on YouTube. They'll just grab it roughly, and I'm like, why? You make me hurt inside. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and have a good rest of your day.